Hello, good morning. Welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am your host, Josh Davis, also known as Crash. Today is Sunday, December 10th, 2023, and I am here today to go over the Week 14 slate in the NFL. If you're new to the channel, if you would hit the like button and then hit subscribe. After you've done those two things, if you would hit the alarm bell, that will let you know when our newest podcast has gone live. If you're new to DFS Coach Talk, we would love to have you join our Discord community. We're a very positive and encouraging group, so we would love to have you join us. We're going to be covering all the sports. We're going to have, with our NBA special, we have for $59.99, you're going to get the rest of the NBA season, of course, the rest of the regular season of the NFL and the playoffs, Super Bowl. And then, baseball will be starting up in March, April. So you'll have that too. Basically everything sports related up until June, as far as the major sports, NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball when it starts. And then we'll also have some coverage of PGA and, maybe some MMA and soccer every now and then, hockey too. So we would love to have you join us. You can join us for as little as $4.99 a week if you want. I will be giving away a weekly membership today. So if you're new here, that will be available for you. So hopefully we'll have somebody new join us today and we can give that out. With that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it, starting with the game-by-game overview. The first game today is going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern. Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are a 2-point favorite at home, minus 130 on the money line. 41 over-under in this game. It's indoors, so we have no weather concerns. The next game is a different story. We have the Los Angeles Rams in Baltimore taking on the Ravens. The Ravens are a 7.5-point favorite. 360 on the money line, 39.5 over-under. 98% chance of rain, 59 degrees, 10-mile-an-hour wind blowing to the south. So this is definitely a game that's expected to rain most, if not all, of the game. And we have the Detroit Lions taking on the Bears in Chicago. The Lions are a 3-point favorite, minus 170 on the money line, 43 over-under. There's a 9% chance of rain, so pretty likely that it won't rain. 36 degrees, 14-mile-an-hour winds. So I have to keep an eye on that. 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the west-northwest. We have the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are a 2.5-point favorite, minus 135 on the money line. Has a 44 over-under. 39 degrees, 9-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the west-northwest. And we have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are a 2.5-point favorite, minus 145 on the money line. Very low over-under at only 34. Only an 8% chance of rain, 38 degrees, 9-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the west. And we have the Carolina Panthers taking on the Saints in New Orleans. The Saints are a 6-point favorite, minus 265 on the money line, 39 over-under indoors, so there's no weather. Then we have the Houston Texans taking on the Jets in New York. Texans are a 3.5-point favorite, minus 180 on the money line, 33 over-under only. I believe that's definitely the lowest on the slate. And 94% chance of rain, 58 degrees, 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the south. So this is a game that I would probably avoid for the most part in the fantasy perspective. Maybe Brevin Jordan with Dalton Schultz is in play. Dalton Schultz is out. With that being said, I think Brevin Jordan's in play again, like we played him last week. And other than that, though, the scheme is looking pretty nasty as far as weather goes. We move to the 405 slate. The Minnesota Vikings taking on the Raiders in Las Vegas. The Vikings are a 3-point favorite with Justin Jefferson back in the lineup. Minus 150 on the money line, a 40.5 over-under. The Seattle Seahawks taking on the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are a 13.5-point favorite, minus 805 on the money line, 46.5 over-under. 61 degrees, 5-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the north-northwest. No rain concerns whatsoever. Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker are both questionable. It sounds like there's a very real chance that Geno Smith won't play. So that's probably affecting that 13.5-point line for that game. Then we have the Buffalo Bills taking on the Chiefs in Kansas City. This is one of the bigger games of the weekend. The Chiefs are a 1-point favorite, minus 120 on the money line. High over under at 49. No rain concerns, 42 degrees, 8-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the west. We have the Denver Broncos taking on the Los Angeles Chargers in LA. Chargers are a 2.5-point favorite, minus 145 on the money line. 44 over under, indoors, so no weather concerns. We have the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Dallas Cowboys in the game of the week on Sunday Night Football. The Cowboys are a 3.5-point favorite, minus 180 on the money line. Highest over under on this weekend, 51.5 indoors, so there's no weather concerns. And we have a Monday night doubleheader. It's kind of rare, but we have a Monday night doubleheader. Tennessee Titans taking on the Miami Dolphins. Green Bay Packers taking on the New York Giants. The Dolphins are a 13-point favorite, minus 805 on the money line. 46.5 over under. Only an 8% chance of rain. 67 degrees, 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the north-northeast in Miami. And then in New York, Green Bay is a 6.5-point favorite on the road, minus 300 on the money line. Low over under at only 37, 39 degrees, 14-mile-an-hour winds blowing to the west. So that is a good look at all the games this weekend. Let's go ahead and take a look at our top plays and our Prizepicks plays, and we'll check on the chat and see if anybody's in here. Morning, Derek. How's it going, man? Glad to have you. All right, so starting at quarterback, my top pay-up option is Justin Fields. He's $6,800 on DraftKings, $7,900 on Fanduel, $34 on Yahoo. He's at home against Detroit. They have allowed the fifth most fantasy points to quarterbacks this year. His last three games against the Lions, he's averaged 29.6 DraftKings points with over 100 yards rushing in all three of those games. So I definitely like Justin Fields today at home against Detroit. I also like Jake Browning. He looked really good against Jacksonville last week on Monday. He's $5,200 on DraftKings, $6,500 on FanDuel, $20 on Yahoo. He really struggled the game before last against the Steelers, but then against Jacksonville, he was incredible. He completed 32 of 37 passes for 354 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions for 29.7 DraftKings points. So he's super cheap. I would imagine he's probably going to be fairly high owned and chalky, but I do like him as a value play for sure. Then we have the running back position. I like Alvin Kamara. He's $8,200 on DraftKings, $9,000 on FanDuel, $32 on Yahoo. At home against Carolina, who has allowed the third most fantasy points to running backs this year. Last week, Kamara had one of his better games of the season. He found the end zone twice, scored 28.9 DraftKings points. So I definitely like him at home against Carolina, especially with Taysom Hill out and Derek Carr is banged up as well. So he's just coming back from his injury, but should be a lot of opportunities for Kamara to get in the end zone again. A value play this week, I really have two. It's both Kansas City running backs. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's $4,200 on DraftKings, $5,500 on FanDuel, $10 on Yahoo, and Jerick McKinnon, he's $4,800 on DraftKings, $5,300 on FanDuel, $11 on Yahoo. They both give us some value with Isaiah Pacheco out. So I like Edwards-Helaire more on like FanDuel and Yahoo, and maybe McKinnon on DraftKings where you get the point per reception. But I like both in play and, should see pretty decent workload from both of them. Wide receiver, my top pay-up option is Devontae Adams. He's $7,500 on DraftKings, $7,400 on FanDuel, $23 on Yahoo. He's at home against the Vikings. He's absolutely torched them in recent meetings. His last 4 games against the Vikings, he has had no less than 30 DraftKings points. And with Antonio Pierce there as the head coach, they've definitely made an effort to get Devontae more involved. So he's been targeted 33 times in his last 3 games, and I think he'll see a heavy target share again today. We have this kind of a showdown between Adams and Jefferson, 2 of the best receivers in the NFL today. So I definitely think Devontae is going to be, heavily used in the passing game for the Raiders. The other top wide receivers that I like today, DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel, and then for value, I do like Alec Pierce from the Colts. Go to first, before we go to tight end, let's take a look at the chat. King of all trades, welcome, buddy. Anybody have any questions for me? Tight end, the top pay-up option is Travis Kelce. He's at home against the Bills. He's $7,800 on DraftKings, $8,000 on Fanduel, $29 on Yahoo. He's averaged 25.2 DraftKings points in his last 5 games against the Bills. He has a touchdown in 4 of his last 5 games against the Bills, and he has 2 multi-touchdown games in there as well. So Kelce's definitely had a lot of success against the Bills, and back home, I would expect that to continue again today with the Chiefs, relying on their favorite weapons, and obviously Kelce's their favorite weapon. So with Pacheco out, I think that Kelce will be more involved even than normal. Then at tight end, for value, as I mentioned before in the game-by-game breakdown, Brevin Jordan, he's $3,100 on DraftKings, $5,000 on FanDuel, $10 on Yahoo. Dalton Schultz is out again for Houston. Jordan saw 3 catches last week for 64 yards against Denver. Tank Dell was put on IR. He got hurt last week against Denver. So the Jets have also been the best against wide receivers. They've allowed the fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, and they've been about average against tight ends. So that could be a way to attack them. A little concerned with the weather, but Brevin Jordan is so cheap, especially on like DraftKings, really all 3 sites, that I don't think that it's too major of a concern. As long as he gets a few catches and hopefully gets in the end zone, that would really help. All right. For defense, there's several options that I like. I like the Browns, especially if Trevor Lawrence is ruled out, but they're still in play for me. But my top options would be the Texans against the Jets. I like the Falcons against the Bucs. Atlanta's put up double-digit fantasy points in their last 2 games. I do like them at home against Tampa. And then I think in GPP only, the Bears are actually a decent play against the Lions. They had a pretty nice game last time they faced Detroit, basically all but the last 2 minutes of the game. So if they can shore up the end of their game, their fourth quarter defense, then they should have a pretty nice game today at a very low price and probably very low ownership too. As far as my picks of the week go, my lock of the week is going to be the Saints over the Panthers. And then my upset is going to be the Bears over Detroit. They had Detroit down 2 scores. They led most of the game in the recent matchup in Detroit. And I think the Bears find a way to get a win this time. Definitely like them against the spread at +3. So if the Lions win by 1 or 2 or whatever, then you're still going to cover. But I like the Bears straight up. All right, then we'll go into our prize picks plays. I don't see any more questions in the chat. Devontae Adams, more than 70.5 receiving yards. He's gone over this number in his last 3 games. In his last 6 games against Minnesota, he's gone over 100 receiving yards. So I definitely like Adams more than 70.5. I've even seen him in some sites at like 66.5. So I definitely like the over on those plays. David Montgomery against his former team back in Chicago. I like him to score a touchdown. So you've got more than 0.5 passing, rushing, or receiving touchdowns. I like the more than on that. And then DJ Moore, more than 14.5 fantasy score. He's had 3 touchdowns in 4 games against Detroit in his career, and he has no less than 20.1 fantasy points in those 4 games. So last time they played on week 11 in Detroit, he had 22.6 fantasy score, and I'd like him to go over 14.5 again today. Any other questions? Fade defenses today. I would say probably, I don't know that I like the Colts. I do like the Bengals with Jake Browning today. Probably fade the Colts defense. Probably fade both defenses in Minnesota and Las Vegas. Probably fade both defenses in Buffalo and Kansas City. That's a tough one, really. It's unusual to think about like a defense to fade. So, but it's a good question. Definitely could provide an edge if we faded the right defenses for sure. All right, guys, I don't see any more questions in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Hope you join us again next week for week 15 as we continue to look to crush it in NFL, DFS, and Prizepicks. Thank you.